40 win. Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Hello, my name is Chris Hand. Thank you for joining me this morning. I'm so excited to have you here. The weather is absolutely insane today. Mac, you barely made it in.
Buzzer beater.
Dude, what were you doing? You got to leave on time.
I made it. Hey, I'm here.
You are here, and we are happy to have you. Thank you for joining me. The phone lines are on the fritz, but the super text line is always open, and we love for you to be a part of the show. We love crowdsourcing information and opinion. 615-737-9986 is the number to text in. Today, we have a lot going on, including the reaction from the indictment of Donald J. Trump, the 45th president of the United States of America. Now, my friends, I know that people might be upset about this, but I think it's going to be a net positive. So the news broke yesterday while we were on the air, and we briefly covered, but as more reaction is coming out, I think it's worth unpacking the latest indictment on President Trump and what he's now facing for his involvement with January 6th. And also, I think it's worth taking, a little stroll down memory lane, shall we say. So, what do we know right now? President Trump received this letter late Sunday night, giving him 4 days to appear before a grand jury. But what was his involvement? Well, in case you haven't heard this in a while, I think it's worth a listen. What was his involvement in January 6th?
We have come to demand that Congress do the right thing and only count the electors who have been lawfully slated. I know that everyone here will soon be marching over to the Capitol building to peacefully and patriotically make your voices heard.
Okay, so his involvement was telling people to peacefully and patriotically march over to the Capitol to make their voices heard. Doesn't really sound like incitement to me, Doesn't sound like something an insurrectionist would say. I'm not an insurrectionist, so I could be confused. There's room for error there. But he even tweeted at the time, before his Twitter account was banned, he tweeted on January 6, 21, "I'm asking for everyone at the U.S. Capitol to remain peaceful, no violence. Remember, we are the party of law and order. Respect the law, respect the law and our great men and women in blue. Thank you." He didn't fumble it halfway through. That was just a tweet from him. He also tweeted, "Please support our Capitol Police and law enforcement. They are truly on the side of our country. Stay peaceful." So does that reek of an incitement to you? I don't know. That's what he's going to be charged with, I assume, inciting an insurrection.
You have to go home now.
This was him after everything went down.
You have to go home now. We have to have peace. We have to have law and order. We have to respect our great people in law and order. We don't want anybody hurt.
Okay, so thanks to the trip down memory lane, before, during, and after, January 6th, the insurrection, he said, be peaceful, be peaceful, be peaceful. And now he's being charged or soon to be indicted for inciting an insurrection. Okay. And you can play those clips for people on the left, but of course, that's not going to change anyone's mind. President Trump was on Hannity last night, and I know how most of you feel about Hannity, and I feel the same way. It's a tough watch, but I did watch this because President Trump was on, and he finally got to be on TV and tell everybody what he was thinking from his point of view after receiving that letter.
You have all of these never-ending attacks.
Yeah.
And you released on Truth Social earlier today that that you are a target of this January 6th grand jury. My first question to you is, it doesn't seem to bother you like I think it would bother so many other people. What is it about you that it doesn't?
No, it bothers me. It bothers me for everybody in this incredible sold-out audience, and it bothers you. I got the letter on Sunday night. Think of it. I don't think they've ever sent a letter on Sunday night. And they're in a rush because they want to interfere. It's interference with the election. It's election interference. Never been done like this in the history of our country, and it's a disgrace. What's happening to our country, whether it's the borders or the elections or kinds of things like this, where the DOJ has become a weapon for the Democrats, an absolute weapon. And it seems that every time my polls, we're leading by a lot. And we're leading by a lot in a place called Iowa, a lot. And not only with the Republicans, but we're leading against Biden by a tremendous amount. They haven't seen anything like it. And they feel, I guess, they want to try and demean and diminish and frighten people, but they don't frighten us because we're going to make America great again. That's all there is. We're going to make
That's all there is to it. And I mentioned this earlier on the Gang of Four with Dan and Johnny and Ken. This isn't going to hurt him. In fact, this is only going to make him stronger. Every time that he's attacked and indicted, his poll numbers go up. And he's absolutely right. What the Biden Department of Justice is doing is a disgrace. We have officially reached banana republic status. I mean, this is what happens in third world countries. Attempting to jail and silence your political opponents because you can't beat them. Because, your policies are terrible. You can't campaign on your policies. Your poll numbers are in the toilet, and all you have left is to try and indict and jail your political opponents. It's unbelievable. Now, this is all because people didn't think the election was fair. It wasn't on the level. And it's funny to me, we still actually aren't allowed to have that conversation. Seriously, why can't we? Why can't we ask if the election was on the level? How come we can't ask that? It's insane. Tucker Carlson mentioned this exact thing about January 6th during his speech in Florida over the weekend.
So I saw this and I was like, yeah, okay, it was people super mad. They thought the election, this was January 6th, so it was, it took a long time for me to figure out what happened, just being honest. I think I'm just too old, and so it's hard to notice when things change, certain assumptions you have, of course it's on the level. They wouldn't actually subvert an election. And then someone very smart said to me, really, people kill each other over insurance claims? This is running the world. What wouldn't they do? Oh, right, good point. Anyway, but I just kind of didn't think too much about it. I'm definitely opposed to vandalism. Anyone who breaks windows is not my friend. I hate that.
Hey, and I'm opposed to vandalism too. And I think that we all agreed on that point about January 6th. It went too far. Fighting with cops, breaking things, violence, too far. But we were never allowed to have the conversation in the first place. Not just about January 6th, but about the election. And even wanting that conversation, it got us labeled every name in the book, from deplorable to election deniers, everything. Just lambasted.
And in fact, the people at the Capitol on January 6th are exactly the ones who most want to believe in our elections. They're the ones who carried the pocket constitution. How many CNN anchors deeply believe in the American political process? They put you in a camp if they could. Shut up. They have no interest in the process at all. But the people who really believed in it were naturally the most shocked and the most upset to believe it wasn't real. But anyway, I thought we would have that conversation at some point. I never supported, and I will never support vandalism, period. But I did think, well, maybe the upside, this, Ashley Babbitt's killing, clearly in retrospect to murder.
Facts.
It'll amount to something. We can have a national conversation about this. And I'm completely for national conversations. But every year they promise us a national conversation, on race. We need a conversation on race. Okay, shut up. Okay. National conversation means no one's allowed to talk except the people who called for the national conversation. And they never stop talking. But anyway, we never had any conversation about that. In fact, anyone who tried was deplatformed, debanked, basically hounded out of public life in America, bankrupted, in a lot of cases put in jail. Fired. Yeah, fired. Oh.
That part was so funny. The audience member yelled out, fired, and you could see Tucker, register in his mind, oh, she's talking about me.
He said, oh, fired. And then he started laughing.
Yeah. So, it's so true. And here we are today, right? We have no questions answered. Nothing has been explained. And President Trump is about to be indicted over this. Crazy, right? I can't say that we didn't see this coming. But this is where we're at. And even today, with everything going on, the White House refuses to have the conversation. This is what Karine Jean-Pierre said when she was asked about the indictment yesterday.
The president has held former President Trump responsible for the events of January 6th previously in his rhetoric in a number of ways. So I'm wondering, how does he feel about the fact that the former president may now be held accountable for the events of that day?
So look, this is an ongoing case. I'm just not going to respond to any hypotheticals that's currently, out there in the world. I'm just not going to be very, very mindful and give the Department of Justice their space to do this investigation. Just not going to comment from here.
Oh, thanks. Thanks for the clarity, cringe. So, no questions answered. And I'm a little confused how she's not going to respond to a hypothetical. I'm not sure asking how Biden feels about Trump possibly being indicted is a hypothetical. Like, how do you feel? So, whoa. I don't want to get into the minutia on hypotheticals. You would think that she would have an answer prepared to go for that, but I don't think she's very prepared most days anyway.
Yeah, that doesn't even feel like a curveball or anything.
No, you should have been ready.
It's just pretty basic.
Yeah, come on, man. All right, so no one is going to respond to any hypotheticals in the White House. All right, got it. The guy asked how Biden felt that Trump may be held accountable. Not a hypothetical. Not going to answer that question. Got it. We're probably setting the bar too high for KJP. So a non-answer from the White House, and nobody's surprised about that. But what about the conservatives, right? What about the reaction from them? How do conservatives feel about this? What's their temperature on the situation? We caught up with Marjorie Taylor Greene. This is what she thinks about it.
Yeah, it's absolute bullshit. Yeah, that's my reaction. This is the only way that the Democrats have to beat President Trump, is to arrest him, smear him, charge him with ridiculous charges, all in a cover-up of Joe Biden's crimes, Hunter Biden's crimes. It's unbelievable. It's hard to even recognize that this is our country. The American people are going to be furious.
She's not wrong either. The American people are going to be furious. Not surprised, but definitely angry. Where's the lie? We've reached Banana Republic status. All the while, the Bidens get away with everything. From laptops to influence peddling. It's insane. And I see you weighing in on the super text line, 615-737-9986. Jeremy texted in and said, I don't know, Hand. Sounds like dog whistles to me. 8602 texted in and said, Antifa and the goons of Nancy broke the windows, and the Capitol Police killed Ashley Babbitt. All true. All true.
1585 says something interesting, said it wasn't so much Trump's actions on January 6th as it was the hours of inaction.
Hey, everybody's entitled to their opinion.
So you disagree with that?
I mean, what is he supposed to do with a crowd that large? He tweeted. He told people to be peaceful. I don't think anybody expected a crowd full of feds and Antifa to, run around and force the chaos. And that's what I personally think happened. That's my opinion. I mean, we can look at a guy like Ray Epps who's running around saying, we must storm the Capitol. Everybody's got to get in there. And then he's never charged with a crime until Tucker Carlson brings it up. And apparently now he may be charged. But, what do I know? I'm just a humble radio host. We're going to have more reaction on this on the way because there's so much to unpack. And more reaction from you on the super text line, 615-737-9986. Don't forget, July 26th, J Street Korean Bar and Grill, Hendersonville, starting at 6 p.m. Super Talk Live. Dan, me, Matt Murphy, Brian Wilson, Johnny B, Pamela Furr, and you. And we could talk about all things like this, including stuff that, using the language that we can't use on the air. The explicitives. We can do that at J Street Korean Bar and Grill. 997WTN.com for tickets to that. More from the Chris Hand Show next. This is Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Heavy rain persists in Middle Tennessee. We're still under threat of flash flooding, severe thunderstorms, and the U.S. has now suspended funding for the Chinese Wuhan lab. These stories and more at 9:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Super Talk 99.7 WTN. What's going on? It's Chris Hand. 9:27, 74 degrees. Just chaotic out there. Drive safe. Take the extra time on your way in. I know Mac did.
Gosh, what is going on?
What? It was raining.
The guy makes it to work on time.
On time.
He still gets land-based.
I know.
On time is the latest that you should be as my producer.
Fair enough.
All right, no, I'm just razzing him.
Brother Mac, you got to drive right through that ponding on the interstate.
Yeah. If you see a huge puddle, the last thing I want you doing is turning around, Mac. You need to get here on
Floor
time. No, seriously, everybody, drive safe out there.
Yes, sir.
Because it is chaotic. We'll have more weather for you on the way. But right now, we are unpacking, this crazy indictment that is on the way for Donald J. Trump and the reaction. So, how's everybody feeling about this? Super texters, 615-737-9986 weighing in. And, reaction is it just keeps rolling in. Oh, give me some audio. My man, he's late for work and then he doesn't give me audio. What is going on with this guy today, guys? Come on, Mac.
I think Marjorie said it very articulately. I share the same sentiment, the same disappointment, but not surprised. We have somebody who has a serious, venomous anger towards President Trump. We have a Democratic Party that is losing in the polls, and desperation has sunk in, and it is obvious. That would be my reaction, Lydia. It's not surprising, unfortunately, because they are desperate. That is all this is. Absolute desperation.
Absolute desperation. That was Trump spokesperson Alina Hobbs jumping on Newsmax last night to give her reaction to Marjorie Taylor Greene's reaction to the Trump alleged indictment coming soon. I mean, it reeks of desperation. How can anyone believe the DOJ isn't acting on behalf of the Bidens at this point? And despite what we can see with our eyes and hear with our ears, the Biden admin and press secretary KJP wants you to believe that they are acting independently. Seriously.
Here's what we have done. The president respects the Department of Justice, their independence.
Okay.
He has been very steadfast on making sure that the rule of law comes back in this administration, comes back in the White House, and clearly the administration more broadly, and that's what you have seen. I'm just not going to comment on this particular case.
That's what we've seen. Independent justice departments and the rule of law coming back. Everybody take note of that. That's all we're seeing. And if you think anything else, you're guilty of thought crime. It's 9:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Here's the news.
I'm Ken Weaver with your top stories, and the heavy rain continues. Some of the heaviest right now over in Murfreesboro and Franklin, and we still have that flash flood watch until noon today for all of Middle Tennessee. And some of us under a severe thunderstorm watch for about another half hour. That is for everyone west of 65 except for Nashville. Got the full forecast in 2 minutes. Well, the Biden administration is suspending funding for the Chinese Wuhan lab, which is at the center of a theory that COVID-19 escaped from in late 2019, triggering the global pandemic and nearly 7 million recorded deaths. Speaking of China, China says its Navy ships are preparing for joint exercise with Russia's sea forces. Those are believed to be set for parts of the Sea of Japan in coming days. That's the latest news. Weather is next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News.
If you have a 401k at work, chances are you've seen something called a target date fund. Now, the idea behind a target date fund is if you're going to retire in a specific year, let's say 2030, All you do is put all your money in that fund and you don't even have to think about it. Set it and forget it is the idea. Now, one of the things that I warn people about regarding these types of funds is many times they're not nearly as diversified as you think. When we look at investing, when we look at diversification, we want to own really small companies, really large companies, really growth-oriented, really value-oriented companies, and diversify between these different market areas. Target date funds tend to focus more attention down here for a really basic reason. It sells better. Because you're investing in very big, well-known U.S. companies, what happens is investors tend to like to look like the market, as we say. And the problem, though, is when we do that, is we can go very long periods of time. 1966 through 1982 is one example. More recently, 2000 through 2012, where large U.S. stocks had no return, where other market segments actually did quite well. So one of the things that happens is when we invest in a target date fund, we may be overly concentrated and have more risk than we really realize. So if you want to learn more about our approach to investing and financial planning and how we educate investors, go to paulwinkler.com and set up a free 15-minute phone call, or you can call 615-851-1950.
9:37, 75 degrees, heavy rain outside. This is Super Talk 99.7 WTN. My name is Chris Hand. Man, that glass breaking, it gets you just jazzed up.
Let's go.
The Super Text line is open, 615-737-9986. I made a joke a minute ago about being able to use expletives at our event at the J Street Korean Grill and Bar. And I got called out of the Super Text line. Said, Chris, I thought you said you were a Christian. How do the expletives fit into your testimony? So first of all, it was a joke. And then I replied to him with a joke, too. I said, we all fall short. It's not really a joke. That's just the truth. We do.
Yeah, of course.
We all fall short.
Of course.
All right. Speaking of people falling short, man, more political charges coming over being a Trump supporter. At this point, if you've ever shaken Donald Trump's hand or looked at him and, smiled or just enjoyed one thing he said, I have a feeling the DOJ may be coming after you. But through all the charges yesterday and the indictments coming down and are about to come down, you may have missed this story. And so I want to shine the light on it. Michigan, the state of Michigan, is charging 16 Trump supporters with their conspiracy over the alleged 2020 alternate electors plan. All right, so from the Post-Millennial, on Tuesday, Michigan Attorney General Dana Nessel, who, might I add, was funded by George Soros. So just to give you a little backstory, her whole campaign was funded by George Soros. She's one of those George Soros DAs that everybody talks about. So on Tuesday, she announced that 16 people would be criminally charged for alleged alternative elector efforts in the wake of the 2020 presidential election. So according to the Attorney General's office, the 16 face 8 felony charges each. Felonies, including election law forgery, conspiracy, and uttering and publishing. Do you expect anything less from a George Soros-funded attorney? Mac, I'm going to need some audio. So here comes her announcement via Twitter. Oh.
As part of the orchestrated plan, we allege that 16 Michigan residents met covertly in the basement of Michigan GOP headquarters and knowingly and of their own volition signed their names to multiple certificates stating that they were the duly elected and qualified electors for President and Vice President of the United States of America for the state of Michigan. That was a lie. They weren't the duly elected and qualified electors, and each of the defendants knew it. They carried out these actions with the hope and belief that the electoral votes of Michigan's 2020 election would be awarded to the candidate of their choosing instead of the candidate that Michigan voters actually chose.
Shocking. Absolutely shocking. So she's charging them with, and I quote, election law forgery, conspiracy, and uttering and publishing. 16 of them facing 8 felony charges each. Felonies.
Undoubtedly, there will be those who claim these charges are political in nature.
You're kidding me. People are going to think these are politically motivated charges? Take off the tinfoil hat, my man. There's nothing political about it.
Undoubtedly, there will be those who claim these charges are political in nature. But where there is overwhelming evidence of guilt in respect to multiple crimes, the most political act I could engage in as a prosecutor would be to take no action at all.
Oh, thank the Lord for Attorney General Dana Nessel, who was funded by George Soros. And I would also like to point out that this Michigan Democrat Attorney General is the same district attorney that called for every school in Michigan to have a drag queen to lift kids up who have emotional issues. Seriously. So she's funded by George Soros, pursuing politically motivated charges, and she loves drag queens.
It's not a problem for kids who are seeking a good education. Drag queens.
Oh.
Okay? Let
Okay.
me say this. Drag queens, not only are they not hurting our kids, queens make everything better.
Drag queens make everything better for kids. So put that in your pipe and smoke it, bigots. What in the world is happening in the state of Michigan, the Mitten State? Well, Nessel said, the post-millennial continues, Nessel said that after signing these fraudulent documents, some of these people attempted to enter the state capitol building and deliver their fabricated electoral votes to the Senate floor, but were turned away. These false electoral documents were then conveyed to the United States Senate and the National Archives with the intent that Vice President Pence would overturn the results of the election using the false electoral slate. Nessel went on to say that this plan was fraudulent and legally baseless, saying that 16 people's actions undermined the public's faith in the integrity of our elections. Yeah, that's what undermined their faith. Those 16 people. Had nothing to do with being in Detroit and boarding up the windows while they were counting ballots. That didn't ruin anyone's faith in the election. But she went on to say, not only did they violate the spirit of laws enshrining and defending our democracy, we believe also plainly violated the laws by which we administer our elections in Michigan and peacefully transfer power in America. Okay. That's a George Soros-funded DA for you. That's a pro-drag queen DA. This is also the same Michigan DA that during the pandemic said that President Trump would not be allowed in buildings in the state if he made an appearance at a Ford plant in the state without a mask. So guys, totally on the level, not politically motivated at all.
If we've learned nothing over the last several years of President Trump in the White House, is that he doesn't have the same level of legal accountability as everybody else.
No, not the same accountability as everybody else. We just go after him with anything that we can to smear him on at every turn.
But honestly, if he fails to wear a mask, he's going to be asked not to return to any enclosed facilities inside our state. And I know that Ford has asked him to do the same thing. But if we know that he's coming to our state and we know he's not going to follow the law, I think we're going to have to take action against any company or any facility that allows him inside those facilities and puts our workers at risk. We just simply can't afford it here in our state. If President Trump doesn't care about his own health, doesn't care about the health and the safety of people who work in those facilities, at least care about the economic situation of, costing these facilities so much money by having to close down and disinfect the plant after he leaves.
Oh, yeah. You got to disinfect. Remember all that? Do you remember that? Oh, we got to disinfect. How dare you not wear a mask? We don't have to go down the rabbit hole of mask studies being proven to be ineffective. We don't have to do all that. I only play that to show and paint a picture of this George Soros-funded attorney general from Michigan, Dana Nessel, who is pro-drag queen, pro-democracy, and now charging 16 people in the state of Michigan with a conspiracy over their alleged 2020 alternate electors plot. Dun, dun, dun. Good timing. Thank you. So, also, I feel like I have to, I keep going down memory lane with these people, but it's only to point out the hypocrisy. But the same thing, if I recall correctly, basically happened in 2016, and it would have benefited Hillary Clinton. The whole alternate electors, anti-democracy plot. This is from The Guardian in 2016, post-election. Faithless electors explain their last-ditch attempt to stop Donald Trump. With the body poised to confirm Donald Trump as the next U.S. president on Monday, a handful of faithless electors explain why they're putting up a fight. This year, at least 8 of the 538 have indicated that they intend to break ranks with modern tradition and vote against their party in protest directed squarely against Donald Trump. All but one of those rebels are Democratic, which is not coincidental. Many of these Democrats see the Electoral College as the last-ditch hope of stopping Trump. The idea being that if their example can encourage their Republican fellow electors to follow suit and rally around a compromise alternative candidate, the Trump presidency can yet be abated. So, rules for thee, but not for me. It's such a Democrat philosophy. Now, that didn't go as planned in 2016, and it didn't go as planned in 2020 either with the faithless electors. You know, the ones in 2016 didn't want Trump to take the big chair, and in 2020, the alternate electors convened and attested to a Trump win so that in the event of recounts, lawsuits, and what could reveal that Trump had won the state, the certified election results would still have been able to be submitted to Congress before the deadline. Again, it's been done before on more than one occasion. Now, I don't want to scare you. But again, if you've ever said anything nice about President Donald J. Trump or looked at him or smiled at him or even watched the last episode of The Apprentice before it went off the air, you may be getting a visit by your local Stasi members. So be on the lookout for that. Also, be on the lookout for George Soros-funded district attorneys and attorney generals. They're everywhere, and they claim to be so pro-democracy. But, again, these charges are always politically motivated, no matter what they say.
Undoubtedly, there will be those who claim these charges are political in nature.
Yeah, we will, because they are. But, as Orwellian as the Democratic Party is, don't believe what you see, don't believe what you hear, just believe what we tell you, because that's the Democratic platform these days. It's crazy what's going on. And it's crazy that politically motivated charges like this can slip under the radar. But, again, what do I know? I just host 9 to 12 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. I'm Chris Hand. Continue the conversation with me off air on Twitter, Instagram, at Chris Hand on air. And make sure you join us July 26th, J Street Korean Bar and Grill for Super Talk Live. Tickets online, 997WTN.com.
Got a crash in the way, Williamson County. Is that overturned truck? The right shoulder is still blocked, affecting 65 northbound at the Thompson Station Road overpass. And then in Cheatham County, Keagston Springs, 40 eastbound, right before the Ashland City Highway exit 249, exit 188. That is Highway 249, exit 188. That is a 31-minute delay right there. Stop and go traffic starting at the Cheatham-Williamson County line. Still under threat of flash flooding and severe storms, and the U.S. has now suspended funding for the Chinese Wuhan lab. These stories and more at 10 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Super Talk 99.7 WTN. 9:56, 75 degrees, still raining cats and dogs out there, man. And as expected, the Democrats still coming after Republicans with politically motivated charges left and right. Trump facing another indictment. Looks like he'll be appearing before the grand jury on Thursday. And believe it or not, his number one opponent in the Republican primaries, Ron DeSantis, who was on CNN last night with Jake Tapper, actually had Trump's back.
If Jack Smith has evidence of criminality, should Donald Trump be held accountable?
So here's the problem. This country is going down the road of criminalizing political differences, and I think that's wrong. Alvin Bragg stretched a statute in Manhattan to be able to try to target Donald Trump. Most people, even people on the left, acknowledge if that wasn't Trump, that case would not have likely been brought against a normal civilian. And so you have a situation where the Department of Justice, FBI, have been weaponized against people they don't like. And the number one example of that happened to be against Donald Trump with the Russia collusion. That was not a legitimate investigation. That was being done to try to drive Trump out of office. And so what I've said as president, my job is to restore a single standard of justice, to end weaponization of these agencies. We're going to have a new FBI director on day one. We're going to have big changes at the Department of Justice. Americans across the political spectrum need to have confidence that what is going on is based on the rule of law, not based on what political tribe you're in.
And it does feel like it's based on what political tribe we're in. Just, whatever way the wind is blowing, it seems like they're throwing charges at Republicans and conservatives. 615-737-9986 is the super text line. I want to hear your thoughts on the issue of the day. Mac has been looking and digging through the super texts, and I'm looking at them too, but they're coming in fast and heavy.
I know it's hard to keep up, Chris. We've got one from Jerry. Says, what bothers me about the Biden's DOJ, FBI, etc. debacle is they don't care what Americans think. It's just we're going to do what we want and screw anyone that disagrees.
Exactly. It always feels like it's about the vocal minority instead of the silent majority. And it's time for us to just get loud, because if we don't, nobody's going to listen to us. The squeaky wheel gets the grease, right? And by loud, I mean using your voice. That's the move. Because if anybody does anything crazy, well, it'll be all over the news, and they'll use it against conservatives at every turn. The best move is almost no move. You know what I mean? But
100%.
Call out the BS when you see it, because it's on us, to turn over every rock and point out George Soros DAs and point out the hypocrisy. And that's what we're going to do here every day on the Chris Hand Show on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. It's 10 a.m. Ken Weaver's got the news for you.
Ten o'clock on the dot. I'm Ken Weaver with your top stories. Still some very heavy rain in Middle Tennessee, and everyone's under a flash flood watch until 10 o'clock this morning. Full forecast in 2 minutes. The Biden administration suspending funding for the Chinese Wuhan lab, which is at the center of a theory that COVID-19 escaped from that lab in late 2019, triggering the global pandemic, nearly 7 million recorded deaths. This determination to suspend funding comes after the Research Institute failed to provide the National Institutes of Health with requested documents amid reported safety concerns at the lab. China continues to block any substantive investigation into the COVID outbreak's origin. And a new study from Johns Hopkins University shows hundreds of thousands of Americans died each year due to a misdiagnosis from a doctor. But Dr. Jennifer Ashton says that overall, the risks of being misdiagnosed are fairly low.
Great spot in this is that given the massive number of healthcare encounters we have in this country every single year, overall numbers, the risk is very, very low, still less than 0.1%.
Right now in Tennessee, Governor Bill Lee says supplying schools with SROs could be part of the special legislative session on public safety discussion next month. Metro Nashville Police, Knoxville Police say they don't have enough police officers to put an SRO in every one of their elementary schools, even though they could apply for grant money, which the state has made available. Speaking of money, the chance to win big today.
Take care of my wife and my kids, take care of my family, and that's it. Relax. I'm tired of working 2 different jobs.
That man in the Bronx with a case of lotto fever after no one won the Mega Millions jackpot last night. That jackpot now at $720 million for Friday's drawing. And tonight's Powerball is a whopping $1 billion, the third largest Powerball jackpot ever. That's the latest news. Weather is next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News.
.10:05, 74 degrees out, heavy rain. Take it easy, drive slow. Be late to work. Ask Mac.
Yeah, just take after me.
It's not a big deal. Nobody's going to fire you.
No one cares.
You're too important. In case you missed it earlier, Mac was on time to work, but he warned us. He warned us that he may be late, and that's enough. That's enough to catch our ire. All right, so taking a little break from the indictment news to go down the entertainment lane. I'm sure that you've been hearing about the heat that Jason Aldean is receiving for his music video, Try That in a Small Town. So in case you missed it, CMT, Country Music Television, has pulled the Try It in a Small Town video. Here's the song. Oop. I mean, it's actually a really, really good record.
Sucker punch somebody on the sidewalk, carjacking old lady at a red light, pull a gun on the owner of a liquor store. You think it's cool, act a fool if you like, cuss out a cop, spit in his face, stomp on the flag and light it up. Yeah, you think you're tough, well, try that in a small town.
All right, now throughout the video, Jason Aldean has footage of Antifa riots, BLM riots, the Summer of Love. All the footage was filmed and aired on, all the major news networks. Nothing that hadn't been on TV before, he said. But he filmed parts of the video in front of a courthouse where allegedly 100 years ago or so, I'm not very familiar with the news of 100 years ago, but there was a controversial lynching that happened in front of that courthouse. So people are, of course, saying, racist dog whistles, it's a pro-lynching song. And people are just piling on. CMT has pulled the video. What do you think? 615-737-9986 is the super text line. Do you think that this song is racist? Do you think that the video is racist? Do you think it's a pro-lynching song? Sheryl Crow took the opportunity to pile on. She tweeted, Jason, I'm from a small town. Even people in small towns are sick of violence. There's nothing small town or American about promoting violence. You should know better than anyone, having survived a mass shooting. Talking about what happened in Vegas. That was the Jason Aldean concert as well. She went on to say, this is not American or small town-like. It's just lame. Do you think that this song is promoting violence? If anything, I feel like this song is warning against violence. Because
farmers are dropping their own crops
Listen.
for the day. A friend is in need, and they've come to help.
It's what this community and a lot of our communities stand for. Somebody needs some help, you'll get it.
And that's what it's all about. So, do you think he's promoting violence? Do you think that this is a pro-lynching record? Do you think this is going to hurt his career? 615-737-9986. Text in your comments. I'm of the opinion that this is going to have the Morgan Wallen effect on Jason Aldean. I didn't know this record existed until this morning when I was doing my show prep. I don't pay much attention to new music. I'm more of a, 90s, early 2000s, old school kind of guy. I like 70s rock and roll. I like some country music too. But, I didn't know this song existed. And then this morning, I see the headlines. So what's the first thing I do? Well, I run to YouTube and I check out the video. So Jason Aldean gets another view, gets another hit. I may go buy the song on Apple Music just to prove a point. I haven't bought anything on Apple Music in, I don't know, man, 5-10 years. Like, who buys music anymore? I have a streaming subscription. Yeah. But I'm going to be listening to this record more. I can tell you that. Will this equate to more ticket sales? I think so. I think it'll equate to more support. I mean, every time Jason Aldean's wife gets some heat, they end up getting more support, more people, backing them. 7736 texted in and said, the Jason Aldean song is a beautiful song. Letting you know in a small town, we don't tolerate that. I completely agree. Bill texted in 5211. He said, I think CMT is racist against Jason Aldean's First Amendment. Well, I don't know if that's a racist, but I get where you're coming from. Nick 3331 texted in and said, don't forget, This is payback to Jason Aldean because his wife was very outspoken about Target going woke and about the transgender kids section. It's so true. Jason Aldean, you got a target on your back, my friend. There's nothing that you're going to do, if it's even close to the line, that they aren't going to come at you for. Because you have aligned yourselves with the party of evil. Oh, you're one of them evil conservatives. And this is what happens. You say the wrong thing, you think the wrong thing, and you are a target. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. 7422 texted in, Sheryl Crow has friends that are communists. She writes about them. I downloaded the Jason Aldean song last night. I don't really like it. I don't love country music, but I downloaded it just to stick it to the left. And that, my friends, 7422, great text, is exactly my point. It's like the Bud Light effect in reverse, you know? We have to stick together, and if somebody says that something's evil and racist and wrong, and it's not, well, it's on all of us, the silent majority of us, to get vocal and raise it up to higher heights than it could have reached on its own. And that's exactly what's going to happen to this Jason Aldean song. Texts are rolling in at 615-737-9986. 1841 said, absolutely not a racist song. You go, Jason. Great song. 2785 said, the people who think this song is racist are the racist. Simple as. The song is about the spirit of people, and the people who hate it hate the small town spirit of freedom. Completely agree. You're showing your true colors when you attack this song as racist. And I understand the courthouse being, the site of a controversial lynching. And I understand.
Where's that courthouse? We got a super text about that, too.
I think it was in Lewisburg.
Can look it up, too.
I believe it was in Lewisburg. Don't quote me because I could be wrong. I had it written down somewhere and I lost it. But, regardless of the town it was in, the message is don't try this stuff in a small town because we're seeing the violence in big cities. It's insane. You can't open up Twitter or Instagram these days without seeing, in New York City, somebody driving down the street randomly shooting people. The weekends in Chicago, it's a war zone. People call Chicago Chirac. Like, more people died in Chicago over the course of the Iraq War than in the Iraq War. Like, it's insane. But yet the right, we are the evil ones. We're the racists. Okay. I don't think it's about race at all. I think it's about small towns not tolerating the BS. And in these big towns, people are scared. The Siena College Research Institute released a poll, and it said 61% of people in New York City worry about being crime victims, and half of New Yorkers are worried about their safety in public places. Half of the people in New York City are worried about their safety in public places. We're quickly degrading into a third world country. We've reached banana republic status where political opponents of the current regime are being charged with crimes they didn't commit. And in big cities, you're worried about walking down the street. It's a shame. It's an absolute shame. Percentage of New Yorkers touched or threatened by crime. In New York City, 57% of people are concerned about their safety in public places. 53% are concerned about safety after hearing about criminal activity in their neighborhood. 46% of New Yorkers have witnessed violent or threatening behavior. 45% felt threatened by others' behavior in cars. And it's not just the violence that people are experiencing in these big cities. It's the fact that if you defend yourself or defend others, like we saw with the Daniel Penny situation, well, you're going to be charged for that too. So it's not just the threat of crime, it's the threat of defending yourself from the crime that's going to get you in trouble as well. Because now, if you defend yourself or defend others in some of these big cities, one of these Soros-backed DAs is going to charge you with a crime. So if you defend the life of someone else, you save the life of someone else, you could lose your own life by being locked up in, jail for murder charges. Even though in the Penny situation, they tried to revive the man after he was choked out. He put him in the recovery position. The mainstream media doesn't cover any of those facts. And then you get a song where Jason Aldean is saying, don't do that in a small town. Don't try and carjack a granny. Don't sucker punch someone on the sidewalk. And because he chose the wrong location for the video, it's banned from CMT. He's smeared as a racist. And, communist sympathizers like Sheryl Crow come out and just smash him. You're on the wrong side of history, Jason Aldean. That's what the left wants you to think. 615-737-9986. The super texts are rolling in. 5993 said the violence is happening more and more in Nashville also. It needs to be stopped now or Nashville will become Chicago. I can't disagree with you. It seems like any city with blue leadership is devolving into a war zone because the police are afraid to act because they would be smeared as racist or criminally charged. Citizens are now afraid to act because they could be smeared or criminally charged. It's just crazy to me. 615-737-9986. I love the super textures because we can crowdsource this information. Somebody said that the courthouse was in Columbia.
Yeah, Columbia, Murray County.
Columbia. My mistake. I think I said Lewisburg. It's in Columbia, Murray County.
You got a lot of people, Chris, saying, let's give CMT the Bud Light treatment. 6890. Screw CMT. Maybe he didn't say screw CMT. 7866. Bud Light CMT. 1860. People need to give CMT the same treatment that they gave Bud Light. This is the time to stand up. Yeah, a lot of people saying that exact same thing right now.
It's so true. And I love that Bud Lighting something is somewhat of it's a verb now.
Yeah, instead of boycotting, you're Bud Lighting.
Yeah, exactly. I love that. But I mean, listen, do people even watch CMT? People don't even watch cable in general. But again, I think that this is only going to be a net positive for Jason Aldean. 615-737-9986. 8378 texted in and said they do the same thing to artists on Broadway. You're fired over right-wing comments. 1502 said Sheryl Crow can go drink a Bud Light. 3396 said we need to support Jason by buying his record. This will send a message. Let's give him the biggest record sales that any country artist has gotten over a decade. I think that we can do that. If everybody listening to this radio station goes and buys the record today, and every conservative in the country does the same thing, that thing's going to skyrocket. Let's get it platinum. Let's get it diamond. 2613 said, we need to stop people moving in from California, Chicago, and New York. Listen, I don't want to stop people fleeing from these states to our state because, we have a good thing going. But my wife always says, and she has such a good point when she says that, she thinks that when somebody moves to a state, they should have to wait 2 years before they can vote in local elections. So that way they can learn the policies in the state. Let them vote in national elections, that's fine. But you need to wait so that way you don't vote for the same policies that ruined your state. I think it's a good idea. My wife is very, very smart. But what do you think about this Jason Aldean song? 615-737-9986. More comments and reaction next. And more news from the day. This is Super Talk 99.7 WTN. My name is Chris Hand. Vote with your dollar every day. That's the only thing that really makes a difference. Find me offline, off air, online, at Chris Hand on air on Twitter, at Chris Hand on air on Instagram. Follow me, I'll follow you back, and we can keep the conversation going. It's Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Still got very heavy rain out there. The Chinese Wuhan lab is getting cut off, and a new study on the number of Americans who die after a doctor misdiagnoses them. All this and more at 10:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Yeah, you think it's tough. Well, try that in a small town. See how far you make it down the road. Around here we take care of our own. You cross that line, it won't take long for you to find out. I recommend you don't. Try that in a small town.
Super Talk 99.7 WTN, 10:25. Rain, lightning, thunder. But the big storm is circling Jason Aldean right now, taking tons of heat and flack for his Try That in a Small Town song and video, which was banned from CMT because people think it's racist. Full disclosure, I tried to get somebody from Jason Aldean's camp or Jason Aldean on the line, and apparently they are in lockdown today, just trying to, wait out this storm and figure out, what the next steps are, which is a good move. Sometimes saying nothing, I know he tweeted out a couple things, but sometimes saying nothing is the best course of action when the left comes at you. You know what the worst course of action is when the left comes at you? Apologizing. I don't think apologizing ever gets you anything because they're not going to accept your apology anyway. But I want to know what you think. 615-737-9986. Do you support Jason Aldean? Is this song racist? What do you want to add to the conversation? Text us. We'll read your text on the air. Mac, you've been compiling some of the best of the super texts.
Yeah, some good stuff here. We've got 3396 says, need to support Jason by buying his record. That'll send a message. We've got, this is a good one, 3455. He needs to make another song about the people against him, just like Eminem would. Like a clapback kind of track, which is funny. Jennifer says, who gives two dead rats about what Sheryl Crow thinks? She's just jealous because she's a dried up has-been.
Oh,
I know. Wow. Coming for Sheryl Crow. And then 1502, he agrees or she agrees, says Sheryl Crow can go drink a Bud Light.
So funny. And I saw a couple people saying that they liked my wife's idea. My wife always has this idea of, somebody had texted in, said, people from California or New York, they shouldn't be moving to Tennessee. And I said, I disagree with that. Like, if you want to get out of a dangerous, awful place where people are camping on the street full time, like, I think that that's a good idea, especially if you have kids and a family. And Tennessee's a great state. But my wife's idea is that you shouldn't be able to vote for 2 years in local elections until you get the lay of the land. You learn, what the policy is. That way you don't come in and vote for the same policies that ruin the state you were in. I think it's a smart idea. Vote in your national elections. That's fine. You don't lose that. But if you move to Tennessee, we should push for that, where you can't vote in local elections until you've been a resident for at least 2 years.
Yeah, I've never heard that before. That's interesting.
That's just my idea. I don't know if it would work. I don't know if it's legal. But
yeah, we'd have to go into the legalities.
I am not a lawyer. I'm just a humble 9 to 12 host. But, that's one of the fears of people moving from New York and California, that they're going to come here and vote the same way they voted that ruined their state. And that's understandable. That's an understandable fear. All right, to Super Text are rolling in. Reaction from the Jason Aldean controversy. CMT has banned his music video. So what do you think? 615-737-9986. 6695 said we need to stick together, buy Jason's records just to send a message to CMT. Do you see any good ones?
Oh, yeah. Sorry. We've got all caps 2714, not racist at all. He spoke the truth. 3455 says, I hope he doesn't backtrack himself. Make sure everyone go buy his record. 5528, Jason Aldean is not racist. It's obvious that he chose a beautiful courthouse. I live in Columbia to say, quote, we follow the law and look out for another in this small town. I hate to hear how twisted the left think.
Well, If they didn't think Twisted, they wouldn't think at all.
That's the truth.
All right, so let's all stick together. Go buy Jason Aldean's record on Apple Music, iTunes, wherever you purchase music. Go play the song. Go play it on YouTube. Even just one view is good for Jason Aldean, and we can all stick together and show people that we're not backing down to idle threats. It is now 10:30, 74 degrees on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Here's the news.
I'm Ken Weaver with your top stories, and the vast majority of the very heavy rain has now moved into South Tennessee, but continues to give some problems down there for those folks. Now, here in the Nashville area, we do have some light to moderate showers, so look out for ponding on the highways. We are still under a flash flood watch until noon. That's all of Middle Tennessee. Looks like the severe thunderstorm watch that had been in effect has been allowed to expire. Well, the Biden administration suspending funding for the Chinese Wuhan lab because it's not safe, according to a memo from the Department of Health and Human Services. That lab in Wuhan, by the way, at the center of a theory that a leak caused the COVID-19 outbreak. And a new study from Johns Hopkins University shows hundreds of thousands of Americans died each year due to a misdiagnosis from a doctor. More from Dr. Jennifer Ashton.
They used estimates for what they call the big three for vascular events, infections, and cancers. They found that 11% of patients may have been misdiagnosed. 4% of those misdiagnoses may have led to serious outcomes like paralysis, stroke, or even death.
According to the study, strokes were the most misdiagnosed condition. That's the latest news. Weather's next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News.
If you have a 401k at work, chances are you've seen something called a target date fund. Now, the idea behind a target date fund is if you're going to retire in a specific year, let's say 2030, all you do is put all your money in that fund. You don't even have to think about it. Set it and forget it is the idea. Now, one of the things that I warn people about regarding these types of funds is many times they're not nearly as diversified as you think. When we look at investing, when we look at diversification, we want to own really small companies, really large companies, really growth-oriented, really value-oriented companies, and diversify between these different market areas. Target date funds tend to focus more attention down here for a really basic reason. It sells better. Because you're investing in very big, well-known U.S. companies, what happens is investors tend to like to look like the market, as we say. And the problem, though, is when we do that is we can go very long periods of time. 1966 through 1982 is one example. More recently, 2000 through 2012, where large U.S. stocks had no return, where other market segments actually did quite well. So one of the things that happens is when we invest in a target date fund, we may be overly concentrated and have more risk than we really realize. So if you want to learn more about our approach to investing and financial planning and how we educate investors, go to paulwinkler.com and set up a free 15-minute phone call, or you can call 615-851-1950.
1036 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. How are you? My name is Chris Hand. I'm the new guy on Super Talk. Thank you for joining me. Thank you for listening. As you know, we were talking about Jason Aldean and his music video for Try That in a Small Town being banned from CMT. We are going to move off of that story, but before we do, there was one really, really good text that came in to the super text line at 615-737-9986.
Yeah, 6766 said, Jason Aldean used to live in Murray County, not sure about now, so why wouldn't he choose the Murray County Courthouse? We need to buy his record. Also, it was the site of a Miley Cyrus movie. I don't recall them name-calling Billy Ray.
So, it was his hometown, and the Miley Cyrus movie was not racist. Got it.
Check.
All right, cool. Well, now that we got that out of the way, it is Whistleblower Wednesday. We got all these hearings coming up with the IRS whistleblowers, the FBI whistleblowers, and I said yesterday I'm not holding out hope that we're going to see anything. I don't want to be black-pilled. I don't want to be a doomer, but I feel like in the past I've been so excited about criminal charges coming against the Democrats and their illegality that I've felt like Oprah at times, where I'm like, you're getting indicted, you're getting indicted, you're getting indicted, and it never happens. It never comes to fruition. So it's a little bit disappointing. However, I have I'm 5% hope about today because we have two agencies, the FBI and the IRS, coming down to answer questions to the House Oversight Committee. However, and this is where I always am like, man, I knew that something like this was going to happen. The FBI told Hunter Biden investigator to duck committee questions, a bombshell letter shows. You cannot make this stuff up. All right, so the FBI warned a supervisory agent who investigated Hunter Biden that he was expected to decline to respond to House Oversight Committee questions about the ongoing case involving the first son, a bombshell letter obtained by the New York Post shows. The FBI warned this guy who was going to testify that he was expected to decline to respond. Are you shocked? I mean, at this point, the FBI is just a criminal organization. I used to say, there's some good people in the FBI. And that percentage just keeps shrinking and shrinking and shrinking. It's probably as much hope as I have for something coming out of this hearing is how many good people there are in the FBI these days. If my FBI agent who's assigned to me is listening, sorry about the bad review. FBI General Counsel Jason Jones sent the letter Sunday afternoon, just hours before the agent was set to testify, even though a source tells the Post that the FBI knew of a scheduled Monday deposition for several days. The department expects that you will decline to respond to questions seeking non-public information likely covered by one or more components of executive privilege or other significant confidentiality interests, in particular, information about deliberations or ongoing investigative activity in law enforcement matters, Jones wrote. You should instead refer such questions to the FBI's Office of Congressional Affairs. Weird. So an FBI agent decides to be a whistleblower because the FBI doesn't give anyone any information, and the FBI says, you're not expected to answer, refer them back to us. We wouldn't need an FBI whistleblower if the FBI would give information and have real investigations. But I digress. I don't want to get all sweaty. Consistent with long-standing practice, this will afford the department full opportunity to consider particular questions and possible accommodations that may fulfill the committee's legitimate need for information while protecting executive branch confidentiality interests. They said the quiet part out loud, protecting the executive branch. Because that's really what this is all about, protecting the Biden crime family. The FBI agent proceeded to confirm key details of the probe that were previously shared by two IRS agents, including that Hunter's legal team was tipped off about a planned approach to interview him in December 2020 about his failure to pay millions in taxes on foreign income, spoiling the opportunity. It's amazing. Hunter Biden's legal team say they believe that their client's legal exposure is over after he reached a probation-only plea deal last month on 2 misdemeanor tax fraud charges and a gun possession felony that will be expunged following probation. A gun possession felony that you or I would be locked up for, what? I think it's a minimum of 5 years. We would lose our freedom in an instant if we did a fraction of what Hunter Biden has done. What he's admitted to doing. Not just what's on the laptop, but what he's actually admitted to investigators to doing. We would be locked up. Our families would have to say goodbye to us, and we would be officially writing letters back and forth and dealing with visitation time. Not Hunter Biden, though. No. Because the FBI protects the executive branch. Jones referred to the Hunter Biden case as ongoing in his letter, using similar wording to Delaware U.S. Attorney David Weiss, which congressional Republicans fear is intended to hinder their demands for records and testimony. Yeah, they always get a pass if the investigation is ongoing. So you just leave the investigation open forever and you never have to answer any questions, right? Sounds great. Sounds so comforting. Sounds like we're going to get a lot out of this hearing. According to information provided to you by the committee is seeking information about an individual ongoing criminal investigation and prosecution, Jones wrote. Specifically, the committee has stated an interest in what the committee has described to you as certain events that took place in December 2020 as part of this investigation. As the department recently emphasized, when affirming that U.S. Attorney David Weiss will appear before the House Committee on the Judiciary at an appropriate time consistent with law and department policy. The department's longstanding policy is to seek, wherever possible, to provide information about closed rather than open matters. Yeah, so if the investigation's open, then you can't ask any questions. And since they leave the investigation open for, at least over 3 years, since the December 2020 interview, but 2.5 years, you're not allowed to ask any questions about it. The FBI had the laptop, I believe it was 2018. Not allowed to ask any questions about it. That investigation's ongoing. Jones added, department officials, including those who have left the department, are obligated to protect non-public information they learned in the course of their work. Such information could be subject to various privileges, including law enforcement, deliberative process, attorney work product, and attorney-client privileges and privacy interests. Current and former department officials also must protect classified information, sources, and methods in grand jury information protected by federal rule of criminal procedure. So, a lot of word salad there from the FBI. But the gist of it is, don't answer any questions tomorrow or today at the hearing. Just don't answer any questions. Refer them back to us, and we'll handle it from there. We'll just tell them we can't answer any questions because the investigation's ongoing. We must protect the executive branch at all cost, says the FBI, air quotes. An FBI spokesperson told the Post there was nothing out of the ordinary about the letter, saying it was standard practice. I'm sure it's standard practice for the FBI to stonewall investigations. I mean, from what we've seen over the past few years, it definitely seems like standard operating procedure from the FBI. What do you think about this? Is anything going to come out of this Whistleblower Wednesday? 615-737-9986. Jason, 0674, texted in and said, Chris, I don't know what you're expecting the FBI to do to Hunter. I don't think you can go to prison. I don't think when you go to prison, you can bring your own cocaine. That's fair, but you probably can get cocaine in prison. Just saying. 5604 texted in and said, they're just going to leave it open until the statute of limitations run out. That's fair. That's fair. Kyle texted in and said, it's funny. Hunter Biden gets a plea deal for this gun charge because they're calling for tighter gun laws too. Thanks, Kyle. This whole thing is funny. It's funny that people think we're going to get results from it. Again, I don't want to be the guy that's black-pilled. I don't want to be the guy that's a doomer and saying, nothing's going to happen. But come on, guys. Is anything really going to happen? Seriously. Is anything going to come of this? I doubt it. I highly, highly doubt it. 5594 texted in, Hunter Biden investigation. It is ongoing. Why? It allows the statute of limitations to run out. Everything is secret and will conclude with nothing to see here. So
Bingo.
4574 texted in, said Hunter would smoke all of the Parmesan cheese in prison. there wouldn't be any Parmesan cheese for your pasta in prison if you were a cellmate with Hunter Biden. I can assure you of that. 615-737-9986 is the number to text. So we are expecting some sort of revelation and, just crazy fact-finding at the Whistleblower Wednesday hearings today. At least that's what we're told to be expecting. I do not think that's going to happen. I know you don't either. I know. It looks good. It sounds good. It does. I want accountability from these hearings. I want criminal charges. But guys, it's not going to happen. I want to be wrong. I want to believe in our justice system. I want to believe in the FBI. I want to believe that crimes will be punished. But all we're seeing is the crimes of the left going unpunished and the non-crimes of the right, you get indictments for.
Surprise, surprise, surprise.
It's not really a surprise anymore. It's sad. I mean, I have 4 kids, and, you do the right thing happens. You do the wrong thing happens. I try to instill that in them. But then I look at our leadership and the people in some of the highest offices in this country. We're a banana republic. We're jailing our political opponents. We're letting the son of the president get away with throwing guns away in trash cans near schools. We're letting him get away with influence peddling and, getting paid to be on the board of Burisma when he has no experience in energy or Ukraine. And after decades of evidence of the Democrats ignoring the rule of law, I'm not going to get my hopes up. And it stinks, but that's where we are.
2936 on the super text line says, the only way to fix it, Trump president, Cruz attorney general, Jordan FBI director.
Jordan FBI director. I would like Jim Jordan as the FBI director. Cruz as the attorney general would also be good. He's super smart. I think that would be a step in the right direction. But Trump, they're going to do whatever they can to stop him from winning that presidency. If you thought 2020 was bad, I fear for what we're going to see in the lead up and post 2024 election.
Oof.
I mean, am I wrong? Tell me if I'm wrong, please. I would hope. I want to be wrong. I don't think I am. But here we are. 5650 texted in and said, Bolshevik Democrats are going to have to be stopped or we lose our republic. I agree with you, 5650, but I fear that they're too ingrained because it's not just the elected Democratic officials, it's also the unelected Democratic bureaucrats in offices like the FBI and the IRS that we're dealing with. The cards are stacked against us, my friends. 2660 texted and said, everyone who's gone to prison for gun violations should sue for 14th Amendment violations. Hey, man, I can't disagree with you. 6447 said they learned from Fidel Castro to use the government to lock up your political opponents. They learned from the Nazis to destroy history and force the media to support your indoctrination goals. Where's the lie? Where's the lie?
2862 asked, are we turning into the Soviets?
I saw a thing on Twitter last night. It said, wait a second. It was a John Kirby clip. It said, wait a second. Are we the baddies? I think we are.
I think we're the baddies.
I think we're the bad guys. Damn it, man. Well, that's where we stand. I don't want to suck all the hope out of you like a vacuum, but I have no hope, my friends. Whistleblower Wednesday. I hope they prove me wrong, and I will patiently wait for that. 615-737-9986 is the number for you to call and text in. Our phone lines are down, but you can text in 615-737-9986. I want to hear what you think. So shoot us a text. And find me online, Twitter and Instagram. I'm at Chris Hand on air. Thank you for listening. 1051 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Boy, that is still a big tie-up in Williamson County. You've got that overturned truck. The right shoulder is blocked. It is stop-and-go traffic starting at Saturn Parkway. There's 65 northbound. And then here in Nashville, St. Thomas West, injury crash blocking up Harding Pike westbound at Woodland Drive. U.S. funding for the Chinese Wuhan lab is being suspended, and the lawsuit against Northwestern University for alleged hazing in the football program is growing. These stories and more at 11 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Thank you, Ken Weaver. It's Super Talk 99.7 WTN. My name is Chris Hand, 1058, 76 degrees, raining cats and dogs, and don't you worry, the Justice Department, they're not compromised, you guys. They're acting independently.
But the president has held former President Trump responsible for the events of January 6th previously in his rhetoric in a number of ways. So I'm wondering, how does he feel about the fact that the former president may now be held accountable for the events of that day?
So look, this is an ongoing case. I'm just not going to respond to any hypotheticals that's currently, out there in the world. I'm just not going to be very, very mindful and give the Department of Justice their space to do this investigation. Just not going to comment from here.
Just give them their space to do the investigation independently, you guys. The executive branch, the Biden regime, they're not influencing this thing at all. There's no fingers on the scales. Don't worry. I promise. Take my word for it, says Karine Jean-Pierre. More reaction from the impending Trump indictment over January 6th, and more super texts from you after 11 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
$11 o'clock on the dot this Wednesday morning. I'm Ken Weaver with your top stories. Still got some moderate rain out there in Nashville. The heaviest of it has now gotten closer to Alabama. So it looks like we're done with the heaviest of this rain for the time being. However, all of Middle Tennessee still under a flash flood watch for about 1 more hour. Full forecast coming up in 2 minutes. U.S. funding for the Chinese Wuhan lab is being suspended. The Biden administration has a memo from the Department of Health and Human Services showing operations there are not safe or reliable. And the lab is at the center of a theory that it leaked COVID-19, leading to the pandemic. China, meanwhile, continues to block any attempt at a substantive investigation into the origin. Back here in the U.S., the lawsuit against Northwestern University for alleged hazing in the football program is growing.
We will be adding another defendant, former athletic director of Northwestern, James Phillips.
That is lawyer Patrick Salvi, who represents a former Northwestern University football player who is already suing the school, its president and former coach. He's also demanding the school release the full and unedited investigation into the hazing allegations. Later today in our nation's capital, IRS whistleblowers testified to the House Oversight Committee investigating whether the Justice Department, FBI, and IRS interfered in the investigation into Hunter Biden's overseas business dealings and whether the Biden family benefited from his father being vice president at the time. Just this morning, Fox News says Republicans say the IRS whistleblower X is a gay Democrat with 13 years in the criminal division at the agency. That's the latest news. Weather is next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News.
Welcome in hour number 3 of the Chris Hand Show. It is 11:04 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. I hope your day is going great. Mine is. We're having a lot of fun in here. It's gonna be a crazy day. We got the whistleblower testimony happening with the House Oversight Committee. That could be cool. I'm not holding my breath on it. And President Trump, he has another indictment looming for his involvement with January 6th. And this news broke while me and Mac were on the air yesterday. And we briefly covered it. But as more reactions coming out, we want to dive back in and remind you why they're coming after him for January 6th is because of his insane, hateful rhetoric like this.
We have come to demand that Congress do the right thing and only count the electors who have been lawfully slated. I know that everyone here will soon be marching over to the Capitol building to peacefully and patriotically make your voices heard.
Yep, that's the extreme rhetoric, patriotically and peacefully and patriotically. That absolute madman. How can he keep getting away with it? How could he? In all seriousness, though, that doesn't sound like someone inciting insurrection to me. Does that sound like that to you? 615-737-9986, the number to text in. So just to be clear, he never once called for violence, not during and even after all the events of January 6th. When, the smoke was starting to clear, he still was calling for peace.
You have to go home now. We have to have peace. We have to have law and order. We have to respect our great people in law and order. We don't want anybody hurt.
We don't want anybody hurt. We don't want anybody hurt. Respect law and order. How can we keep letting him get away with this? Orange man bad is what the left will tell you. And, they practice what they preach. So they're going to indict him again. He even tweeted for everyone to remain peaceful, before they deleted his Twitter account for hateful rhetoric. He tweeted on January 6th, I'm asking for everyone at the U.S. Capitol to remain peaceful, no violence. Remember, we are the party of law and order. Respect the law and our great men and women in blue. Thank you. So, of course, we're not going to change the mind of the left. They are dead set on the fact that this man is just evil, and he's going to be punished for his crimes one way or another. He was on Hannity last night, and I'm not a Hannity fan. He lost me actually during the January 6th stuff when he was like doing the TikTok thing. TikTok, it's coming. Everything, this is all coming. TikTok, and he lost me. I thought it got away from him. I don't watch Fox News, but I did catch this clip on Twitter because President Trump was on Hannity last night, and he had this to say about the letter he received.
You have all of these never-ending attacks. Yeah. And you released on Truth Social earlier today that that you are a target of this January 6th grand jury. My first question to you is, it doesn't seem to bother you like I think it would bother so many other people. What is it about you that it doesn't?
No, it bothers me. It bothers me for everybody in this incredible sold-out audience, and it bothers you. I got the letter on Sunday night. Think of it. I don't think they've ever sent a letter on Sunday night. And they're in a rush because they want to interfere. It's interference with the election. It's election interference. Never been done like this in the history of our country, and it's a disgrace. What's happening to our country, whether it's the borders or the elections or kinds of things like this, where the DOJ has become a weapon for the Democrats, an absolute weapon. And it seems that every time my polls, we're leading by a lot. And we're leading by a lot in a place called Iowa, a lot. And not only with the Republicans, but we're leading against Biden by a tremendous amount. They haven't seen anything like it. And they feel, I guess, they want to try and demean and diminish and and frighten people, but they don't frighten us because we're going to make America great again. That's all there is. We're going to make our country.
Yep, they don't frighten us, and that's really what this is. This is just a giant fear campaign. And the left wants you to forget about people like Maxine Waters, who would scream and shout during the Summer of Love and the BLM riots. You know, you got to go get up in these people's faces and you know, you got to get crazy. We're not allowed to talk about that. She didn't incite any violence. But telling people to be peaceful and respect the rule of law and order, how dare you? How dare you? And Trump is absolutely right. What the Biden Department of Justice is doing is an absolute travesty. They're weaponizing the DOJ. They're weaponizing the FBI, and we're now a banana republic. We're absolutely a banana republic. This is what third world countries do. You can't beat your political opponent, so you try and throw them in jail. That's where we are. And, you know, this really is all because people didn't think the election was fair. That's what this all boils down to. People don't think the election of 2020 was fair. And it's funny to me that you still aren't allowed to have that conversation. And why can't we? Why can't we ask if the election was on the level? How come? It's just, it's wild. It's wild. Thought crimes are the only crimes that are punished. Tucker mentioned this exact thing over the weekend in Florida.
So I saw this and I was like, yeah, okay, it was people super mad. They thought the election, I mean, this was January 6th, so like, it was, you know, it took a long time for me to figure out what happened, just being honest. I think I'm just too old, and so it's like hard to notice when things change, like certain assumptions you have, like, yeah, of course it's on the level. Like, they wouldn't actually like subvert an election. And as someone very smart said to me, really, people kill each other over insurance claims? This is running the world. Like, what wouldn't they do? Oh, right, good point.
Very good point.
Anyway, but I just kind of didn't think too much about it. Like, I'm definitely opposed to vandalism. Anyone who breaks windows is not my friend. I hate that.
And we all agreed with that part. You can't play into the left's hand. They want you to get violent so that way they can weaponize and use that against you. I mean, look at the January 6 people that are sitting in prison without a court date. And everybody agreed. You know, most conservatives, and I talked to a lot of conservatives, 99% of conservatives agree that it went too far on January 6th. But the root cause, we are not allowed to talk about. And we're never allowed that conversation. We were never allowed to have a national conversation about that, not just about January 6th, but about the election. And even wanting that conversation, well, you get labeled every name in the book. We are just the worst type of people for even questioning it. Complete deplorables.
And in fact, the people at the Capitol on January 6th are exactly the ones who most want to believe in our elections. They're the ones who carried the pocket constitution.
Amen.
How many CNN anchors like deeply believe in the American political process? They put you in a camp if they could. Shut up. They have no interest in the process at all. But the people who really believed in it were naturally the most shocked and the most upset to believe it wasn't real.
That's fair.
But anyway, I thought we would have that conversation at some point. You know, I never supported and I will never support vandalism, period.
No one does.
But I did think, well, maybe the upside, this, Ashley Babbitt's killing, clearly in retrospect to murder.
Fair.
You know, it'll amount to something. We can have a national conversation about this. And I'm completely for national conversations. But every year they promise us a national conversation. Well, on race, we need a conversation on race. Okay, shut up. Okay. National conversation means no one's allowed to talk except the people who called for the national conversation. And they never stopped talking. But anyway, we never had any conversation about that. In fact, anyone who tried was deplatformed, debanked, basically hounded out of public life in America, bankrupted, in a lot of cases put in jail. Yeah, fired. Oh.
Or fired. Tucker cracks up because, you know, he was fired over that. But you know, here we are today. No questions answered. Nothing's been explained, and President Trump is about to be indicted over this. Sure seems fair and on the level still, doesn't it? What do you think about it? 615-737-9986. 4202 texted in and said, it's the patriotic part. It's the patriotic part that triggered the left. Patriot is a derogatory term to them. So fair. Absolutely true. Steve texted in and he said, I firmly believe that Donald Trump could personally finance a cure for cancer, and all the left would do is complain about how the evil man was putting doctors and oncologists out of work. I mean, seriously.
Gosh, if that ain't the truth.
It's so true. All right, so as more reaction was rolling in, a reporter caught Marjorie Taylor Greene. I think she was walking out of her office, and he said, hey, what's your reaction on this? What's your reaction on this Trump indictment?
Yeah, it's absolute bullshit. Yeah, that's my reaction.
Oh.
This is the only way that the Democrats have to beat President Trump is to arrest him, smear him, charge him with ridiculous charges, all in a cover-up of Joe Biden's crimes, Hunter Biden's crimes. It's unbelievable. It's hard to even recognize that this is our country. The American people are going to be furious.
She's not wrong. Where's the lie? We're at Banana Republic status. All the while, the Bidens get away with everything. No investigation on Burisma, the laptop, whatever. Don't worry about it. Stop asking questions. 10% for the big guy. You're a conspiracy theorist. Take off your tinfoil hat. But I firmly believe they're attacking Trump because they fear him. They're completely scared of what may happen if he gets back in office. And, he just may. He's currently leading in all the polls, and every time an indictment like this happens, his poll numbers go up because the American people are seeing through the BS. Trump spokesperson Alina Hobbs jumped on Newsmax last night to give her reaction as well.
I think Marjorie said it very articulately. I share the same sentiment, the same disappointment, but not surprised. We have somebody who has a serious, venomous anger towards President Trump. We have a Democratic Party that is losing in the polls, and desperation has sunk in, and it is obvious. That would be my reaction, Lydia. It's not surprising, unfortunately, because they are desperate. That is all this is, absolute desperation.
And it does reek of desperation. I mean, how can anyone believe that the Department of Justice isn't acting on behalf of the Bidens? Seriously. Like, you would have to have blinders on to think that they're not acting on behalf of the Biden regime. I mean, in everything, even down to when Roe v. Wade, that was leaked. Did they ever find the leaker? No. They never found who had the cocaine in the White House. When Justice Kavanaugh was receiving death threats and people were outside of his home, no one came to save him. It's a two-tiered justice system. We're witnessing it in real time. But the Bidens will tell you, the Biden regime and cringe John Pierre will tell you, no, they're acting independently. Don't worry about it. You're crazy.
Here's what we have done. The president respects the Department of Justice, their independence. He has been very steadfast on making sure that the rule of law comes back in this administration, comes back in the White House, and clearly the administration more broadly, and that's what you have seen. I'm just not going to comment on this particular case.
Okay, thank you so much, Karine Jean-Pierre. The Department of Justice is completely independent. We believe in the rule of law. Okay. I have some oceanfront property in Arizona if anybody would like to buy that. Do they honestly believe this themselves? Do they? Because from where I'm sitting, it's a travesty of justice. 615-737-9986 is the number to text into to add your comment to the conversation. 2889 texted in, said they are terrified if he gets reelected because they are fired. I can't disagree with you. In fact, that's one of the things that they've been promising, is that if they get back into office, if Trump gets back into office, he will fire the bureaucrat state.
You're fired. You're fired. You're fired.
You're fired. Everybody's getting fired. Everyone. It's so true. It's funny. Donald Trump Jr. Over the weekend said that they're worried about Schedule F. Do you know about Schedule F?
They care about furthering their power, their agenda, and ultimately getting on a board seat of big war or whatever it may be. That's why the D.C. Beltway, they don't produce anything, and yet they're the richest counties in the world. That's why they're so against Trump, because now he knows that part of it too, and that scares them more than anything. That's why he's going to implement Schedule F. You guys know what that is, right? Where you literally fire all the bureaucrats.
Schedule F.
Get rid of them all.
Implement Schedule F, please.
And again,
it is time, my friends, to implement Schedule F. It is 11:20 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. My name is Chris Hand. Thank you for being here. You can join us. Join the conversation, 615-737-9986. Text there or hit me up off air and online. At Chris Hand on air on Twitter, at Chris Hand on air on Instagram. And don't forget, we got a big event. We can talk about this stuff in person. It's going to be awesome. J Street Korean Bar and Grill, Super Talk Live, July 26th in Hendersonville. Starts at 6 p.m. You can grab your tickets now at 997WTN.com.
Still got a crash blocking your way Harding Pike westbound at Woodlawn Drive. And then in Williamson County, that overturned truck blocking the right shoulder, 65 northbound at the Thompson Station Road overpass. Most of the very heavy rain is right now along the border with Alabama. We've just got some moderate showers lingering here in the vast majority of Middle Tennessee. Looks like that flash flood watch is going to expire here in about half an hour. And new disturbing details about that Shelbyville murder allegedly committed by a mother against her 11-year-old son. These stories and more at 11:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
That's why he's going to implement Schedule F. You guys know what that is, right? Where you literally fire all the bureaucrats. Get rid of them all.
That's the only thing
And again,
that will change anything. Getting rid of the bureaucrat class. It's 11:26 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. My name is Chris Hand. This is the Chris Hand Show. Thank you for having me on your radio. Really appreciate it. Thank you for texting in 615-737-9986. The only thing that they fear is losing their cushy jobs. That's my belief, at least. And as far as the presidential election goes, I don't know if we're going to have another candidate other than President Trump who would come in and literally on day one go in and fire the bureaucrat class. Because personally, my biggest fear with a lot of the other candidates that I really do like, and I like a lot of them, my big fear is that they'll govern with an eye towards a second term. That's what happens every time. I mean, we all remember that viral video with Obama, and he said, tell Vladimir I'm going to have a lot more leeway after the election. Because that's what happens. You get in for your first term, and you govern for re-election. It's your second term where you can really get some stuff done. It's why I was always so shocked that DeSantis put his hat in the ring to run already. Because if he had just waited, and he got full behind Trump, he could have gone in with a clean slate. If Trump wins, he goes in with a clean slate after they fire all the bureaucrats. So it was always strange to me with him, A, being so young and so impatient, that he wouldn't have tried to let Trump have another chance. And if Trump lost the next election, then he's got a clean slate too. Because if Trump loses twice, like, nobody would have ever called DeSantis disloyal. But he hasn't been, completely disloyal lately. He was on CNN last night, and he actually kind of had Trump's back with this whole indictment thing.
Smith has evidence of criminality. Should Donald Trump be held accountable?
So here's the problem. This country is going down the road of criminalizing political differences, and I think that's wrong. Alvin Bragg stretched a statute in Manhattan to be able to try to target Donald Trump. Most people, even people on the left, acknowledged if that wasn't Trump, that case would not have likely been brought against a normal civilian. And so you have a situation where the Department of Justice, FBI, have been weaponized against people they don't like. And the number one example of that happened to be against Donald Trump with the Russia collusion. That was not a legitimate investigation. That was being done to try to drive Trump out of office. And so what I've said as president, my job is to restore a single standard of justice, to end weaponization of these agencies. We're going to have a new FBI director on day one. We're going to have big changes at the Department of Justice. Americans across the political spectrum need to have confidence that what is going on is based on the rule of law, not based on what political tribe you're in.
He says a lot of good things and a lot of things that I agree with, but I still would fear that he wouldn't be able to get in there and fire the bureaucrats as savagely as he needs to, the same way I feel like if Trump got in there, he would do it because he doesn't have to worry about a re-election campaign in 4 years. Just me. Do like that he kind of had Trump's back there, even though nobody watched CNN or that Jake Tapper interview. But I'm here for you. Like Matt Murphy says, we'll watch CNN so you don't have to. The time is 11:30, 75 degrees outside on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. I'm Chris Hand. Here's Ken Weaver with the news.
Yeah, the heaviest rain is now creeping over into Alabama, but we still have moderate showers, and that kind of adds to the threat of flooding. All of Middle Tennessee is under a flash flood watch until noon. New disturbing details of the Shelbyville murder of 11-year-old Esteban Sylvester. Channel 4 says Patricia Sylvester tied her son's feet before he was strangled. This according to deputies. Deputies say she stopped trying to kill her 4-year-old son when he fought back. And right now in our nation's capital, the House Oversight Committee is preparing for testimony from IRS whistleblowers. Republicans say will link Hunter Biden's finances and overseas business dealings to his father's finances, something that President Biden has long denied. Fox News says one of the whistleblowers is a gay Democrat with 13 years of service in the IRS criminal division. That's the latest news. Weather is next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News.
If you have a 401k at work, chances are you've seen something called a target date fund. Now, the idea behind a target date fund is if you're going to retire in a specific year, let's say 2030, all you do is put all your money in that fund. You don't even have to think about it. Set it and forget it is the idea. Now, one of the things that I warn people about regarding these types of funds is many times they're not nearly as diversified as you think. When we look at investing, when we look at diversification, we want to own really small companies, really large companies, really growth-oriented, really value-oriented companies, and diversify between these different market areas. Target date funds tend to focus more attention down here for a really basic reason. It sells better. Because you're investing in very big, well-known U.S. companies, what happens is investors tend to like to look like the market, as we say. And the problem, though, is when we do that is we can go very long periods of time. 1966 through 1982 is one example. More recently, 2000 through 2012, where large U.S. stocks had no return, where other market segments actually did quite well. So one of the things that happens is when we invest in a target date fund, we may be overly concentrated and have more risk than we really realize. So if you want to learn more about our approach to investing and financial planning and how we educate investors, go to paulwinkler.com and set up a free 15-minute phone call, or you can call 615-851-1950.
It's 11:35 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. We still got some rain falling. 76 degrees outside. Thank you for being here with me. And, you know, the biggest political story of the day is Donald Trump. But the biggest entertainment story of the day is also happening right in our own backyard with Jason Aldean and his music video for Try That in a Small Town being banned from CMT. It's crazy. In case you haven't heard the song, because this is how it always works, right? They bash someone for calling something racist.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't hear the song.
Yep.
And then, so the first thing I did was go find the song. Apparently, it's been out since May. Like, all right, awesome. So, Jason Aldean put out a music video for this song, Try That in a Small Town.
Yeah, you think you're tough. Well, try that in a small town. See how far you make it down the road. Around here we take care of our own. You cross that line, it won't take long for you to find out. I recommend you don't. Try that in a small town.
All right, so that is Jason Aldean's Try That in a Small Town. He releases a music video for this. You can actually see the music video on our Facebook page. Just search Super Talk 99.7. So apparently, the music video was filmed in front of a courthouse in Colombia, and that's where the beef is coming from. Because over 100 years ago, somebody unfortunately, was lynched in front of that courthouse. So they're calling this a pro-lynching song. And it's crazy. The left, they're like vultures, you know what I mean? They just start swirling when they think somebody's about to get canceled. And it didn't take any time. Sheryl Crow came out and started going on about him. She tweeted, Jason Aldean, I'm from a small town. Even people in small towns are sick of violence. There's nothing small town or American about promoting violence. You should know better than anyone, having survived a mass shooting. Talking about the Vegas shooting. That was Jason Aldean's concert. She says, this is not American or small town like. It's just lame. Well, you know what's lame? Which I actually found out from one of our fantastic super texters. She's so anti-racist, and this is the same woman who snatched up 4 properties around the square in Columbia, around the courthouse, as investment properties. If she had such a problem with the racism of Columbia and that racist courthouse, maybe she wouldn't be snatching up properties. To be fair, I didn't fact check that. I took the super texter's word for it. But locals tend to know local things. 615-737-9986. If you want to join the conversation on the super text line, does that sound racist to you? Is this song racist? Is it racist that he filmed it in front of his hometown courthouse? I don't think it is. I mean, the man is from the area.
And there's been plenty of things filmed around that courthouse, in front of that courthouse.
Yeah, Super Texter sent us a bunch of movies that were in front of that.
Yep, filming location matching Columbia, Tennessee. And then you go The Green Mile back in 1999. That's with Tom Hanks. The Hannah Montana movie, which I'm sure a bunch of leftists love that movie. Didn't bring anything about the courthouse. High Roller, a poker movie. Stepping Into the Holiday. It looks like a sort of a Christmas Hallmark movie. Daltrey Calhoun. The list goes on and on. I mean, Chris, there are over 30 movies filmed right in that location. I've never heard a peep.
No, that's not racist. But if you're from a town and your song is about it's an anti-riot song, basically protesting all of the violence that we're seeing in all of these major cities, and if you decide to film a video in your own small town saying, try that violence in a small town and you're not going to like the results, well, you're a bigot. How dare you? It's crazy. 615-737-9986 is the number to text in and call. Now, why is Jason Aldean calling this out? Well, maybe it's because people don't feel safe in big cities anymore. And they always end up being Democrat-run cities, don't they, Mac?
100%. Chris, we had a super text the other day mention, how many of the big cities in America are Republican-run, and I'd never thought about that, so I went online and you look down the list of just all the cities by population in order. And I mean, Chris, there's 2 or 3 big-ish cities that are Republican-run, but the biggest one is San Antonio, and that's an independent. I mean, that comes in at like 13.
Well, is it,
why is that?
So, I think in the past few years, at least in the last couple election cycles, ballot harvesting, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you think about mail-in voting and ballot harvesting, this is why the Republicans need to step up in that area, because it's not going away. If you're in a city like New York and I'm going to get your mail-in ballot and I hit one apartment building, I can knock on like 1,000 doors in, 3 hours. But if I go out to Columbia, Tennessee, how many houses do you think I can get to in 3 hours? It's going to be a lot less.
A lot less.
So the manpower needed to ballot harvest in smaller areas versus big areas, the favor goes to the Democrats easily. And they already have those they're already mobilized in those areas. They got boots on the ground ready to go. But these cities are having people fleeing left and right because nobody feels safe in them. The Siena College Research Institute put out a study, and they said that over 50% of people in New York are afraid of violent crime in public places. Over 50%. Concerned about safety in public places, 57% of New York City people, residents, are afraid. Concerned about safety after hearing about criminal activity in a neighborhood, 53% in New York City. Witnessed violent or threatening behavior, 46% in New York City. And even worse, if you stand up to that violence, then you're charged. Like, they'll rake you through the coals at every turn. I mean, Daniel Penny indicted in the chokehold death of Jordan Neely in New York City. Yet we all saw that story on the subway. A crazy man is making violent threats towards people, and somebody stepped up to keep people safe. And he's lambasted in the media as an evil person, and now he's being charged with second-degree manslaughter. He faces up to 15 years. 15 years for defending innocent bystanders. And, they'll show you the small clip on the TV news of the man in the chokehold, but they don't show you Daniel Penny moving Jordan Neely to the recovery position right after. They don't show you beforehand this crazy person running up and down the train making all these threats. They don't talk about Jordan Neely's extensive criminal past of doing things just like this. They only focus on one little sliver. So if you're in a big city, get out. I don't blame people for wanting to move to Tennessee from New York or California. You think about, the tent cities on the sidewalks, the human feces in the street, and now if you even defend yourself against the violence in these cities, well, you're going to jail. It's a damn shame. And it seems like it's happening more and more. So when Jason Aldean puts out a song, Try That in My Small Town, and he films it in his small town, he's also a racist. 615-737-9986 is the number to super text in. If you haven't seen the Try That in a Small Town video, it's banned on CMT now, but it's not banned on our Facebook page. So find us, Supertalk 99.7 on Facebook. You can watch the video there. Tell us what you think about it, because I think that we all need to come together and do a reverse Bud Light on this whole thing.
Yeah.
One YouTube view goes a long way. Purchasing this song on iTunes goes a long way. Showing support for Jason Aldean goes a long way. The silent majority really needs to get vocal and stand up against hypocrisy like this, because Jason Aldean did nothing wrong, and he's had a target on his back for a long time. His wife was very outspoken about the transgender agenda at Target. So they've been waiting for this man to slip up. They've been waiting. 6447 texted in and said, the left only wants Jason Jason's song to seem racist because it's pro-America. It's pro-people fighting for America, which is everything the left is against. They want to divide us to make us weak and make us fight each other, not to mention to support the destruction of cities. It's crazy. Renee texted in and said, fun tidbit, Miranda Lambert also filmed her video, Famous in a Small Town, in front of the same courthouse, and they never canceled her. Weird. If you have the right political views, you're allowed to get away with anything. Isn't that strange? They only want us to be mad about something when they decide we should be mad about something.
2 tiers.
Thought crime is real, and this is what they do. 9154 texted, does bad history ever go away? No. If something bad happened hundreds of years ago, it's Jason Aldean's fault.
Oh, of course.
Why wouldn't it be?
We've got Becky. That courthouse at Columbia has been the site of many freedom marches and unity marches. We have prayer on the square at the courthouse every second Saturday, 9 to 10 each month, which is multiracial.
Exactly. But let's not focus on the positives. That doesn't go with the narrative. Come on, Becky. You know better than that. 615-737-9986. Your reaction to Jason Aldean's Try That in a Small Town video being banned from country music television. It's unreal. I had reached out to Jason's camp to see if he would be willing to come on the show to talk about the controversy. They're in lockdown dealing with all of the negative feedback right now, which is completely understandable. But at least he didn't apologize, because when you apologize, things just get worse. Jason Aldean tweeted, in the past 24 hours, I have been accused of releasing a pro-lynching song, a song that has been out since May, and was subject to the comparison that I, direct quote, was not too pleased with the nationwide BLM protests. These references are not only meritless, but dangerous. There's not a single lyric in the song that references race or points to it. There isn't a single video clip that isn't real news footage. And while I can try and respect others to have their own interpretation of a song with music, this one goes too far. As so many pointed out, Jason Aldean tweets, I was present at Route 91 where so many lost their lives, and our community recently suffered another heartbreaking tragedy. No one, including me, wants to continue to see senseless headlines or families ripped apart. Try That in a Small Town, for me, refers to the feeling of community that I had growing up, where we took care of our neighbors regardless of differences of background or belief because they were our neighbors. And that was above any differences. My political views have never been something I've hidden from, and I know a lot of us in this country don't agree on how we get back to a sense of normalcy, where we go at least a day without a headline that keeps us up at night. But the desire for it to, that's what this song is about. So kudos to Jason Aldean for standing up for what he believes in and not apologizing, because the left will not accept your apology. If they try to cancel you and you apologize, they will sink their teeth in deeper, because that's what they do. The left doesn't go after the strong. They go after the weak, and they go after them over and over again. Sheryl Crow.
And the base, you know, Aldean's base, or the people who have their heads screwed on straight, are not going to like that apology. The people that actually support you, people that are listening to the song, people on these super text lines who are buying this music right now in support of you are not going to like that when you apologize and bow down to the left's once.
And good for him for not doing it. And it's like, it's going to have the Morgan Wallen effect. Nobody knew who Morgan Wallen was before that infamous video came out of him using the N-word. And now he's one of the top country stars in the world. One of the biggest. People don't like this cancel culture that the left keeps pushing. So if you don't like the cancel culture that the left keeps pushing, support Jason Aldean. Go watch the video on our Facebook page for Try That in a Small Town by searching Super Talk 99.7. Go on iTunes or Apple or Spotify, wherever. Stream it, buy it, do all that kind of stuff. Because we can send a message every single day with our wallets and with our voices. Make them heard. It's Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Don't forget, July 26th, we can talk about all this craziness in person. July 26th, J Street Korean Bar and Grill. Super Talk Live. It kicks off at 6 p.m. We'll do the last hour of Brian's show live, and then we'll just, kick back and shoot shop and talk politics while we have some good Korean barbecue. Tickets online, 997WTN.com. I hope to see you there. It's 11:50 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. 11:57 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. My name is Chris Hand. Thank you for joining me today. Joined in the studio by the one and only Matt Murphy.
Hello.
Did you guys know that me and Matt Murphy are best friends now?
We're buddies.
We're pals.
As far as Chris Hand knows. We're buddies.
I got a super text from John. And he said, Chris, you've ignored me all day. Just like Mandis. Murphy doesn't do that.
That's true.
Who do you want to be like? Have a good day, friend.
Who do you want to be like, Hand? Who do you want to be? That's a great question.
That's it.
That's a good question.
John really got to the root of the problem here.
I don't want to be like Matt or Dan. I just want to be me, you guys. Can't I just be myself? Is that all right?
I gotta be me.
I gotta be
gotta be free. How's your day going? It's kind of a bleh.
Yeah, it's a little wet outside.
Just I'm not saying it's flooding out there, but I passed a guy in a boat with some animals. I mean, it's crazy. Crazy out there.
So what do you got coming up on the show? You got anything spicy? You got any hot takes?
I'm gonna do. You know what? Because this is your show, I can say this. I can't say this on my show, because I would be violating the terms of the bet.
All right, cool.
But I am now on day 4. A liberal bet me that I couldn't go a week not talking about transgenders. So I'm now on day 4 of not talking about transgenders. So I'm going to win $100.
All right.
And I'm hoping that I get through 3 hours without talking about another Trump indictment. Is anybody else bored? We're going to talk about this in this way. But
I don't have any faith that anything's going to happen on either side. I don't think anything's going to happen with the Trump indictment, and I don't think anything's going to happen with the House Oversight Committee.
No. I think Donald Trump will be the nominee for president, and then it's on.
Agreed.
It's on. I don't know that Joe Biden will.
Hype squad, baby. Let's load up the Trump train.
Make it happen. Let's go.
It is Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Thank you for being with me today. Find me off air at Chris Hand on Air on Twitter and Instagram.